Thank you so much for joining us, Shiv. Truly a pleasure to be having a conversation with you as the head honcho of PepsiCo.
Thank you, Sonali. Thank you very much for being here.
Tell me, this whole transition for you, back to your first love, that really being FMCG. How has it been so far? 2 months or so as, the top dog at Pepsi?
I've been away from FMCG for the last decade, about 10 years. FMCG has changed dramatically in the last decade.
Sure.
It's changed dramatically because the country has gone from an economy which was penetration into one of consumption.
Okay.
That's one. Second, the channels of distribution have changed significantly.
Right.
Modern trade is a very important channel for a consumption market.
Right.
Modern trade is a very important market for driving innovation, specifically niche innovation.
Okay.
Then you have the whole e-commerce thing which has opened up. Now you have modern trade playing a sub-distributor role also. Okay, so on every single dimension, things have changed. And now if you look at rural markets, the penetration of most categories in rural markets has gone up significantly over the last decade.
Right.
Okay, shops have all spruced up, etc., etc. So I think overall there's been dramatic change in the FMCG sector over the last 10 years.
If you've looked at the past CEOs of Pepsi, barring a few, usually they've all been homegrown. You are, in fact, the outsider.
Yeah, so I would say that when you come in as an outsider into a CEO role, the most important thing for someone who comes from the outside, you need to earn the trust of people. I think by and large people will give it to you saying, yeah, if you're coming for a very senior role in a company, then people will say, yeah, he must have the credentials to do it. I don't think that's ever people will question that. What they will want is the comfort. Can I trust this person to do the right thing by me and the company? Okay, and that balance is what you need to strike. In order to do that, you have to communicate extensively in the organization. You have to be visible in the organization. You have to go out and meet people. As Mother Teresa said, leadership is a contact sport. You have to contact as many people as possible to get them to know you and get them to see your thinking, to hear your thinking, and to say, okay, this is the way we need to move forward. And once you get the trust and engagement going, okay, then you accelerate after that.
Shiv, for you personally, moving from, let's say, a more edgier category to FMCG, which is very old school, why did you take that call while PepsiCo is a very large company and no doubt, is a lot of people's dream job? For you, you were in a edgier category, so to speak. So why not have stuck to that category? Why come back to an old school category?
Okay, so if you worked in technology and you worked with Nokia for 8 years, I would never ever work in another handset company. That's not me.
Okay.
Full stop. PepsiCo is a company that I've always admired from the outside. A lot of people don't know that in 1988-89, when Roger Enrico was in Bombay on a visit, I went and got his book autographed.
Okay.
So after having read about his book, the other guy blinked. So I've always followed Pepsi, and it's the brands. In my career, I've handled 34 brands, Sonali. Here's a company with 22 outstanding brands, 8 of them more than 1,000 crores. And I think the journey which Pepsi is going through, from the portfolio, the transformation, etc., if you put all that together, that was great. And as you know, the company has announced when Indra was here that the company is going to invest 33,000 crores over the next 7 years. That's the single largest investment by a multinational company in this country. Nobody else has invested so much.
I also want to talk about a slowdown and how that impacts top jobs. For instance, if you look at just the FMCG space, right? 3 large CEOs, have just vacated, and the other person has come in. So there's Shiv, there's Manu Anand, and there's Anand Kripalu, and you all have all. The shuffle happened really quick, almost at the same time. Is this something that you see in a recession because the pressures are so much higher?
In America, 40% of CEOs don't complete 2 years.
Okay.
Okay, so half the CEOs last less than 2 years. And that's not true just for CEOs, it's true for CMOs also.
Okay.
Most CMOs don't last 18 months. Okay, so that's one. Now if I come to India, and I was looking at it some time ago for some data, most CEOs in India don't complete 5 years in a row. Okay, that's about 4 to 5 years.
Fair enough.
Okay, and I think this is happening everywhere.
Right.
Okay, why does it happen? It happens when an economy matures and really grows. So when we are a penetration economy till 10 years ago, the bulk of the marketing, the bulk of the big jobs were in the FMCG sector.
Okay.
As the economy grew, 5% plus, 7% plus, 8% plus, new sectors opened up.
Right.
Okay, aviation opened up.
Right.
Okay, telecom opened up.
Right.
Okay, telecom employed tens of thousands of people. So where do? You go raid the FMCG sector. So all the CEO jobs of the last decade, or since liberalization, 23 years, most of the CEO jobs went to FMCG sector because that was the dominant sector. Now you have many dominant sectors which are coming through. Okay, and every sector we have open competition in India.
Absolutely.
India is a hyper competitive market. In every category you have more than 200 brands. Okay, so there's a lot of churn in every category and sector.
Right.
As a result of which, there are many opportunities which open up for people across levels, from junior to middle management to senior management levels. So, for example, the average attrition in this country is currently about 17%. 17%. In some sectors like retail, front-end retail, etc., and insurance, front-end insurance, the attrition is 40 to 50%. So, which means every second year you have a new team there.
Yeah, sure.
So at least you have a CEO for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But your customer facing people, your middle management people, etc., are changing. Every 2 years you have a new company virtually.
Sure.
So that is reality. And that reality at a senior level gets more focused on because they are in the news and you carry about it. But the whole thing is happening across the board.
But does that really allow a CEO, when he's serving his company, to really think long term? Because if this is going to be the play, every 4 or 5 years you keep, there's going to be a churn, then everybody is only playing for the really short term.
I wouldn't say that. I don't think that's necessarily the point. Let's start with the consumer end. Every product cycle is shortened. So are we saying the consumer is thinking short term? He's not thinking short term. He's saying maximize my experience with you. Okay? Earlier you gave me a car once in 25 years. Now I want a car once in 25 months. So can you show me an upgrade model? As the chain shortens, then you compress a lot of your thinking into 3 and 5 year horizons. In the early days, if you go back to strategy books, they will tell you in the 60s and 70s, strategy was a 10-year horizon or a 20-year horizon.
Sure.
Today, strategies are 18 months to 36 months to 54-month horizons.
Sure.
So the whole society has changed because of technology, of consumer aspiration, and the way hybrid products and hybrid categories are evolving.
Considering that you're operating in a heavily competitive, segment, how are you ensuring, profitability? Because you're constantly under pressure to keep prices at bay.
Every industry is going through that. The answer in every industry, surprisingly, is roughly similar. Your brands must be strong. It is no longer who is bigger. Today, who is faster is more important.
Okay.
It's the fast which beats the slow. It is not the big which beats the small. So at a first level, what is your brand and why is it valuable? Second, you need to be quick. Third, you have to have innovation on your brand to make it relevant on a daily basis. If consumers are expecting dramatic change or dramatic, let's take, appeal enhancement in your brand, you have to ensure that you are keeping pace with them. At one level, you are leading the consumer through his or her nose. At another level, you are reacting to the consumer. Both ways, you have to manage that. And the other part which is happening in India today, and we're going to see more of it, is business model innovation. The way money earlier came as a profit, flow down from sheer pricing, volume into price. Today, it's not necessarily so. Today, as channels fragment, you really need to think of which business models are the best in terms of the best value for money for the consumer and equally the best profit margin for the brand. So that combination is what you need to play with.
You have talked about, specifically about PepsiCo, saying that, the way forward is finding new channels to boost distribution and consumption. When you talk about new channels, can you throw some light on which direction you're going and how that will manifest into, results for you?
I think, it's pretty obvious that, in the urban segment, the modern trade plays a significant role.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah. And the ability to build effective partnerships will be critical here. Then in the large cities, For example, in the fringe, at the fringes of large cities, you have a huge urban poor population.
Okay.
Okay, serving the urban poor will be very important for companies. Okay, the rural market has always been an attractive segment for companies.
Sure.
Okay, in the beverage segment, the challenge of rural markets is always the cooling infrastructure and the glass bottle, the ability to return the glass bottle. But the foods part, where we have wonderful brands like Lay's and Kurkure and Leher, etc., that's an easier game. Okay, so that's a normal distribution thing. Then the whole concept of how digital will really play out, it's at its early stages right now in India. But I believe it will have a powerful role.
So you're saying how digital will serve, you mean e-commerce?
There can be, e-commerce, there can be any number of models. For example, a company need not go and serve directly to the home of a consumer. But the company can work through an intermediary who aggregates brands, who aggregates categories and does it. Okay, there are various approaches that companies can do with channels.
Right.
Those would be the broad brush picture which I would think in terms of what channels will look like for companies in the future.
But you tell me, how will these channels ensure more consumption?
Correct. That's a good question again. So there are channels which are amenable to consumption like modern trade. There are channels which are amenable to consumption like on-premise channels, the eatery channel, the hotel channel, etc. There are those type of channels. But fundamentally, you have to find the right brand trigger to trigger consumption amongst consumers. And that comes through a whole range of activities, whether it's the brand, whether it's the pack, whether it's the channel, whether it's the time of consumption, a whole host of activities that you need to think about.
The whole fizzy drink segment, right? Obviously, your game would always be to be the market leader wherever you are. But, you know, given the fact that we are suddenly going through this so-called health wave, my question to you is this health wave a reality, or is it just, in very select pockets of some SECs?
No, I would say the consciousness of health is there everywhere. So fundamentally, will most food companies have to offer healthier range of products? The answer is yes. Okay. What's the time horizon? It will depend on the category, it will depend on the innovation, it will depend on the initiatives, etc.
Sure.
But overall, I think most consumers in the upper income brackets today are definitely, let's take, health aware, health conscious. Are they practicing in that direction? Maybe no.
Okay.
But definitely, is the awareness there right now? Yes, it's there.
Then how do you boost consumption?
You have to think of different ways of going at it. It's not necessarily a one way. For example, let's take Tropicana as a great example.
Right.
We have 50 calorie packs, we have 75 calorie packs, we have 100 calorie packs if you want. Okay, that's a good enough way for you to drive consumption so that the consumer says, I need little doses of energy, little doses of nourishment, little doses of health. Now that's a wonderful healthy juice brand which is Tropicana. That's one way to do it. Fizzy drinks have to find their own place in the way they transform themselves from the current set.
The whole reorganization strategy of PepsiCo with the power of one, if you can throw some light on, A, what that entire restructuring was, and B, why do you think this is a more effective way to be running this large corporation?
Okay. The first thing, again, go back to consumers. There are always combination products which you use all the time.
Sure.
Okay. Cereals plus milk is a great combination product.
Right.
That's bought together about 30% of the time,
Right.
or consumed together about 30% of the time. Snacks and drinks are bought stroke consumed together, one of the two, around 54% of the time.
Okay.
So at a first level, from a consumer point, does it make sense? Yes, it does. Because these are products which go together. Next, is it a tick at the channel end and the distribution end? A lot of outlets carry both products. So is it a tick? Yes, by and large it's a tick.
Sure.
There would be an overlap of something like 70 to 80%.
Okay.
Now we come to the organization. Okay. Now the organization, you can structure it the way you want. You can be a brand-led organization, which goes one way. Okay. You can be a functional organization with brands under the umbrella of the functions, okay, which is marketing, etc. And that's exactly what we've tried to do. Instead of running it separately as an agglomeration of brands into one business unit or a profit center, we've said we've combined all the brands into one company, all the 22 brands. So once you combine all the 22 brands into one company, the power of one comes into marketing, the power of one comes into supply chain, the power of one comes into operations, the power of one comes into finance, power of one comes into human resources, every single thing.
So essentially you're saying the scale is a lot larger.
That is one. Functional organizations, which is what we really put together, have a lot more depth and expertise as opposed to a matrix organization. So it takes away the duplication of having different profit centers or business units.
So, IPL, just like FMCG, also seems to be a love of yours, which does not seem to leave you. So, while you were associated with the Knight Riders when you were with Nokia, and now, of course, you're the title sponsor. A lot of people, gave Pepsi a lot of flack last year because of, just the way the tournament went, and with no fault of really the sponsor. What's your take on it, given the fact that also, Indra Nooyi said that she doesn't really support, associating with a sport that is, so controversy prone?
There's been a very clear communication by the Mudgal report to say, hey, these are the changes you need to make. If you go and speak with Sundar of IPL, he will tell you that the IPL and BCCI are going beyond what has been recommended. They're going to get into what they call integrity ambassadors. They're going to have people like Rahul Dravid. They're going to have people like maybe Sachin Tendulkar. They're going to have people like Anil Kumble, all the senior citizens of this country in cricket world who have been absolute role models of integrity. Because all of them are still involved with the game. They want to leverage them to say, hey, we want to make this a clean sport. After doing all this, will there always be a challenge of somebody at some level doing something? It will be there. But that will be the small thing, and it will not be a fundamental, let's take, erosion of the system or the principles in a system. If fundamentally in any event, if the erosion of the system takes place over time, sponsors will not be with them.
Can you talk to me about your whole product transformation in terms of how you're looking at, for instance, your foods business is doing very well, and your focus is more and more on foods because clearly PepsiCo as a company is hedging its bets. If you can talk about the kind of investments we'll see in the food space and what kind of acquisitions are you looking specifically in the food space?
I would say overall, if you look at it, our whole transformation is about we have a fun for you range, we have a good for you range, and we have a better for you range. Right. Okay, and this whole range is across a wide variety of categories, and it also is about products like oats. Okay. With Quaker, it's possibly one of the best brands in terms of being a health brand. You take something like water, as basic as water. This is Tata Water Plus. It's a fortified water. Okay, water is going to be one of the biggest needs of this Indian market. Okay, it's one of the biggest needs of most emerging markets. India even more so. Okay, because we will be challenged for water in a future world. Okay, so this product is an amazing product, and it comes in very different formats from a 2 rupee pouch all the way up. Okay, so this will have enormous impact on the health of how Indians really live their lives. And the ability to use water as a carrier to try many more innovations is absolutely right. In oats, our challenge will be to say, how do we make Quaker the breakfast brand of India?
That is a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what it will be, to transform it to that. Equally, how do we make Tropicana the juice brand of India? The breakfast juice of India. So those are the kind of transformations that we need to go through. So in the area of Quaker oats, we have Quaker Upma, Quaker Poha, Quaker Idli, etc. So here's a Western concept in terms of packaging, etc., but fine-tuning it to a very local need specifically. So we have to transform the portfolio as we go and make it much more local and much more relevant.
33,000 crores to be deployed by 2020. What is the strategy of deployment here and how much of it is acquisition led?
If you look at that 33,000 crores that PepsiCo wants to invest in India, we did the first one already, which is going to be one of our largest plants in Sri City, which is in Andhra Pradesh, but closer to Chennai. So we just had a function there, that we have already signed up to do that. So it's a very significant and big investment in manufacturing. So across the chain of activities, from manufacturing to innovation to infrastructure, the investment will go across the board.
How do you see regional players? Do you look at them as serious threats? Do they keep you on your toes?
The bulk of the Indian market is full of regional players. Okay,
Absolutely.
local brands, regional brands, whatever it is. If you take the world has gone a full circle in 40 years. We went from local to regional to global. We've come back to regional to local, and today I would say we are hyper local. Why has that happened? Two things. Television has made it hyper local. Okay, the cell phone has made it hyper local. So today any brand can coexist at the right level of scale and investment, even in Gurgaon or even in Trichy or even in Tinsukia. It can coexist with it. The key thing about the brand is it has to offer value. The consumer doesn't see whether it is local,
Exactly,
or regional or global. He says, does it offer me good value?
exactly.
And if you really look at innovation, etc., in this market, one of the research agencies had put this out, India had in FMCG sector 14,000 innovations in 2011. It also had 14,000 innovations in 2012.
Okay.
45% of that came from foods. It tells you that foods is an intensely innovative category. So whether you're local, regional or global, you have to innovate. Regional brands are beginning to have ambition on account of two fundamental shifts which have happened. One is the development of new channels.
Sure.
Okay, so access to new channels. Earlier, access to distribution was a barrier to most of them. Today, it is not.
Fair enough.
Okay, that is one. And the other one, which is a huge advantage which is happening now, is access to capital.
Right.
Okay, today they can go to a private equity company, sell a bit of stake, and bring in investment. Those are the two reasons why you're seeing this trend of local brands going regional or national.
Given the fact that there's so much buzz about digital and social and all of that, for an FMCG brand, right? Although it is very close to our lives, how important is being social actually help the brand in terms of brass tacks, that's sales? Because finally, do I really want to get a message from Kurkure? Am I interested in interacting with Pepsi? I may love to drink it, but do I want to interact with it? Because that's my private space, is the question I want to pose to you.
Let's take email as an analogy which I give you. The two is whom you write to, whom you are corresponding directly. Okay, I write a mail to you, I am talking to you. Okay, the CC is who are the others, okay, who are aware of it. And the BCC is what's happening behind your back. You might not even be aware of it. That's exactly what's happening in social media. Every brand, if it does not know the BCC of conversations which are happening about themselves, okay, is in trouble. Okay, consumers are expressing their opinion because consumers are the issue is consumers are not seeing brands as fulfilling just the need for a drink or the need for health or a need for nutrition or a need for something else or connectivity. Consumers are saying these brands need to have a larger purpose in my life. They need to have a larger purpose in the way they deal with society. They are expecting higher standards from brands. So every time they are commenting, they are asking the brand to step up and be much more responsible to all the stakeholders in society. You have to win the social and the digital space with consumers, because it is no longer brands talking to consumers. It is consumers talking to consumers about brands. If you are a responsible brand and if you are a responsible corporation, you will participate.
Thank you so much for your time, Shiv.
You.
Thank you so much, and all the very best for your journey as the Pepsi CEO.
Thank you.